Man, I am not gonna do that again, is what some of us say when we make some mistake in our life. And today we are going to talk to you about some of the biggest mistakes that people that have moved to Fort Collins or are considering moving to Fort Collins have made, some of those mistakes that they have told me about that now I'm going to inform you, maybe some ways to avoid them, some things to think about ahead of time, but when you're moving across the country, these could apply to really different cities, states, and really also then specifically to Fort Collins. What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services here in Fort Collins, and today we are talking to you about the biggest mistakes people make when moving to Fort Collins. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, liking the video, commenting. And as much as we like making these videos, we are licensed real estate agents, so please give us a call, text, or email if you're considering buying, selling, or investing here in Northern Colorado. Without any further delay, let's jump into today's video. Alrighty, in no particular order, we're just gonna go down some of these things that maybe we've hit in previous videos, but we're gonna emphasize today when looking at just big mistakes. And the first one is going to be get the right type of winter boot. Those designer boots that are good for, Florida's and maybe some parts of Texas or Arizona that have no waterproofing are not sufficient, or whether they're not insulated and actually keep your feet warm. So get yourself a good pair of boots. Invest the money in a good pair of winter boots. They can last you for really years. I mean, I've got a pair of Sorels that I've had for, I don't even know, maybe since I was 18. So not to say that all boots will last that long, but definitely get yourself a pair of good winter boots. Number two, check your moving options. You'd be surprised of, especially even today in today's world with kind of some startups and people that are doing really awesome things when it comes to moving. But the traditional is pods, get a cross-country mover, or there's one that's, U-Haul's U-Box, and just explore what options there are, because you could save yourself a lot of money. And if you don't know what you don't know, you're just gonna leave that money on the table. And when you get into town, if really you've drived across country, you've been in the car or truck for 14, 16 hours across 2 days with 3 kids, there's a local startup company called Labor Jack, and they will pretty much just send you laborers. They won't necessarily be the movers, but they will come in and they will help move from your house into, or from the truck into the house. So explore what moving options there are and talk to us as far as some of the things that you could look into to save money and headache. Number 3, save your vehicle registration so that when you get into Fort Collins in Northern Colorado, you can go to the Larimer County Clerk and Recorder, your vehicle registration office, and you can quickly get your vehicle registration from your past state and get one updated for Fort Collins. As we've discussed in previous videos, one of the things that you're going to want to do, especially if you're moving from that old state to the west of us, California, to change your license plate as quick as possible. So save that registration, don't throw it away. Use it when you go to Larimer County Clerk and Recorder, Vehicle Registration Office, and you can quickly get a new vehicle registration and new license plates. We're gonna do kind of a number 4 and 5 together, which is assuming there's gonna be this supply of contractors like there was where you were moving from. Fort Collins is a very fast growing community, and with it, our population's growing. There are people that are moving here that are somewhat blue collar trades, but the majority of people that are moving here, I would say, are more tech remote workers working behind a screen, not necessarily with their hands. So our population's growing, but maybe not necessarily our trades populations are growing. So assuming if you're coming from this big metro where there's tons of plumbers and electricians and handymen, well, that's not really the case here in Fort Collins. And getting work done and finding contractors and laborers to do some of the work that you might want to do, like remodeling a bathroom or replacing light fixtures, fixing outlets. Fortunately we have good relationships, but even those don't always work out. Just yesterday, we were working to try to find a pest control company for a client who has prairie dogs in her 2-acre lot. And our pest control company didn't do removal of prairie dogs, and he referred one of his other buddy pest control people, and we were not able to get them out there either. So we are kind of scrambling to try to figure out a removal of these prairie dogs from this property. So definitely going to want to relate, get some good relationships with electricians, plumbers, HVAC, handymen. When you find a good one, keep it. Definitely reach out to us. We do have good relationships. We have about 10 years in investment properties. So fortunately, we have this economies of scale where we've used a lot of electricians and plumbers and tradesmen. But then part 4B or 5 would be consider the work that you're wanting to do in your home prior to moving in. It's so much easier replacing the carpet or paint prior to having furniture and or kids running all over the place. So one of the things from moving out of state into state is first, hopefully you've walked the property at some point, whether that's with a virtual tour or the inspection or prior to closing. One of those 3 options, only because some of the things that you can't really see or smell or hear is on a video. So if there's pet urine smell, and if you're particular to that, or if there's mismatching paint that maybe myself or somebody on my team missed, and that you are like, this is just what I do. You've painted houses for 20 years, or whatever that might be. Make sure to get those jobs done prior to moving in. It's just a lot easier not having to move furniture, run around with kids and coordinate that with the contractor. So 4B or 5 is definitely take a look at what work needs to be done prior to moving in and make sure to at least get in there at some point prior to moving all your furniture. Speaking about kids, if you have a kiddo that's going to need to get into a daycare, you need to really start from day one looking at options for daycare. Now, there are in-home daycares, but one of the things that I've talked with a lot of my clients is we put our kids through in-home daycare, but because we're from this community, we have really great relationships, and we can refer those out, but those are really pretty small capacity operations, and a lot of times those are full as well. But if your kid is wanting to go into, or you want to have your kid go into a daycare, you are going to want to look about getting on a wait list sooner than later. One of my buddies said that he started looking 9 months out, but he's still on a 6-month wait list. So it sounds like he'll get his kiddo in there with plenty of time, but he still started looking 9 months prior to it. So it's not to say that you won't be able to find an opportunity for your kid. It's just that you might have to take a drive because the daycare, you live on the south side of town, the daycare is on the north side of town. So if you have kiddos and you are moving here, start that process sooner than later, looking for daycare options. I like this one, especially because Fort Collins, it is really just a small community. We're a population of 180,000 people. We encompass just over 50 square miles here in northern Colorado, and really the neighborhoods are so close together that the southeast side of town is the northeast, and when I've talked with different marketers, they talked about different sections of the city. I'm like, well, we can't limit ourselves too much because really Fort Collins is a small area. And one of the things that people talked about is when they move from bigger metros or bigger areas, there's little suburbs and kind of like cities within the city that they want to choose, that they want to live in here because this is where the schools are the best, or this school is amazing, so they got to live here. Well, in Fort Collins, you really, especially because of the lack of inventory, you're not really able to choose a neighborhood and then choose a house within that neighborhood because, well, there might be only 5 houses a year that turn over in that neighborhood just because of the desirability of it. But that being said, yes, you can kind of find a section of the town, as we talked about in different videos, southeast, northeast, downtown, near the campus, midtown. There's different kind of areas that you can find different neighborhoods within those areas, but the thought of finding a neighborhood and then finding a house within that neighborhood really does not apply to Fort Collins. So you're gonna have to broaden your horizons a little bit. Back to moving, again, if you use LaborJack and they help you with the move from the truck into the house, that's great. But moving day is long, and if you're coming from an area that might be overcast in the northwest or northeast or somewhere maybe that the sun's not as intense, when you get here and you have an entire day of moving, make sure to wear that sunscreen. Especially if you're bald-headed like me, wear a baseball hat, but make sure to put on that sunscreen because you can quickly get burned. And I'm talking, 30 to 45 minutes, you could have a pretty decent sunburn. So learning the intensity of the sun, especially on that first day of moving, make sure to wear that sunscreen. All right, these last two I really, really like. And one of them was a client that moved here, and she wishes that she would have learned what the cell service coverage was in her area quicker so that she could have moved. Whether you've got T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon, Fort Collins definitely has some dead areas for specific cell services. Like for me, I'm on Verizon, and I can pretty much tell you that near the hospital, I'm not gonna get any service. In the neighborhood Golden Meadows, so if I lived in Golden Meadows, I would quickly move my service to a different company. Or West Chase, same thing. We had a house in West Chase, terrible service. And then there's some other dead areas, and they're specific to different types, or different carriers. So one of the things that you're going to want to do quickly when you get into your house, or maybe when you're looking for your house, or maybe you are tied to your Verizon plan or your AT&T plan, whatever that might be, and you look through your house and you're just have zero cell service. Something to consider when you're looking, or if you don't have service and you love the house, maybe consider moving to T-Mobile or Verizon, and hopefully they have a good service or good cell service in that area around that home. And then the last one. Now, this might be self-serving, if it's not me, that's totally okay, or not me and my team, but find yourself a good realtor and team with boots on the ground that have local knowledge and area-specific knowledge. I don't work past Berthoud. I don't go south of Berthoud. There are agents that work all across, Colorado. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure, yes, you could learn some of the different areas and nuances, but for me, I like having a value to my clients of like, I have a rental in this neighborhood. I actually did a fix and flip, or my cousin lives just right down the road, and here's what the area kind of looks like, what the dynamics are. Here's what the schools are, where you're gonna go, what restaurants and grocery stores you're gonna go. I don't go and do business down in Denver, and so it's important for you, if you're making this big move, to align yourself with a team that, one, you align yourself with on character and values. Make sure that you would like working with us, and if you don't, that's totally okay. But two, making sure that that person that you end up working with has a good base knowledge, and maybe they just moved here, and that's great too, because they can go take you through this experience. But we also have a team that kind of has a diverse background that can really help in different areas. So the last one, biggest mistake, is maybe aligning yourself with somebody who doesn't have that background of what it takes for moving somebody across the country, or maybe doesn't know the community as well, and they're learning the area just as you are, and you're expecting to move your family or you and your partner across country to a new area. So definitely take time, find somebody that you would like, trust, and want to work with. And if that's us, great, appreciate it. So there you have it, folks. The biggest mistakes when moving into Fort Collins, Colorado, or really different areas across the country as well. Hopefully this video has helped you. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, text, or email, or leave a comment down below. And again, please consider subscribing if you found this and you want to know more about Northern Colorado and Fort Collins. Until next time, guys, take care.